Hey there, it's National Master Kevin Yang back here with another video. Today we're going back to the My Earliest Games series. Alright, so this is the first loss I'll be featuring, and I'd like to say that no chess player comes without losses. So in this case, I did lose, and I learned a lot, but I played this guy again, and I drew him the next time, and then he quit, I think. So didn't get a chance to play him, but very nice opponent. Okay. So I'm playing the white pieces. I did lose this game, but it was a very valuable loss. So in this tournament, I did go up by 140 points, which was a really big miracle for me, but I think I played an okay game. Okay. So the game starts with the king's pawn, right? E4, C6, and he plays this so-called rat. This is the rat, where you have both the C6 planning to play D5, also with the bishop G7. So when you combine these two, you call it the rat, and it's kind of very tricky move order, right? Okay, I play this bishop move, which is not exactly the best because black gets to play D5, counters the center, and with tempo on the bishop and the pawn. So I have to either retreat to this square or I have to take, because otherwise I'm going to lose one of the two pieces. So I choose to take, move my bishop back. He develops with another tempo on this pawn. I develop, and I realize that if he takes the pawn here, I get to play check. Knight, I get to take this because the knight is pinned along this line, right? The bishop pins the knight along this line. So therefore I'd win a piece in this scenario. So if bishop b5, bishop here, takes, right? Or we could just take right away because we're threatening the rook. So that's really good as well. Okay, so in the game, I developed the bishop and he brought out the knight, and now he's threatening d4 now without any discovery. So I could try this again, but it wouldn't do much since he'd just develop his knight out, get castled, and probably have a lead in development. And plus we don't want to move our pieces more than once. So knight up, pawn up to defend the pawn, right? And he plays knight f6. Well, I don't think this is an inaccuracy, but I think the right plan on his part is to play f6 followed by e5, right? I'm going to have to knight d2, knight e2, e5, bishop e3, knight e7, followed by bishop developing, castling. So black has really good control of the center, and despite white's pieces being developed, they don't look as active as black's, right? Black's going to come out this way, and these bishops are looking a little bit clumsy in the middle. So, okay, let's return back to the game. Knight f6, knight f3, bishop g4, right? So in these games, black's idea is usually wanting to trade off the bishop for the knight, because the bishop is bad in this scenario, because it doesn't really do much, right? If you go here, it gets traded off. It doesn't help if you go here. And we got to keep in mind that one day black may want to push e5. So it's important to get the bishop here to pin the queen and the knight, and maybe one day take the knight, so to free up the e5 square to get less attackers on this e5 square. So like bishop takes, knight there, and there's too much pressure on this pawn. This knight is pinned, so obviously the pawn is going to be lost. Okay, so let's look back. I played h3, takes, castles. He plays e6. Bishop g5 was a little bit of an inaccuracy, because according to like opening principles, right, we want to develop these other pieces before we move the pieces into the game. So I think much better alternative was either knight out this way, or we could play rook out, right, control the squares, maybe play like, if we make some random moves, rook e8, knight d2, a6, maybe play g4, king h8, say queen g3, right, king g8, knight f3, and come into e5. So that's the sort of plan we want to see. Okay, so I played bishop g5 in the game. h6, bishop h4, rook e8. Now he really wants to execute this e5 push, and I can't really do anything about it, so I just develop my last piece. Knight a3. Now it might be an odd square to develop to, but my goal is to bring this back to c2 and maybe support this pawn. But it didn't help in the game, so a6, he sort of restricts my movement for going here and prepares this b5 push to gain space. Rook d1, b5, knight c2. Okay, I'm following my plan. I want to keep an eye on this, the d file, and be able to sort of have a grip in the center. So he does play e5 now. Now if I take, knight takes, and if I play queen g3, he'll play g5. So that's the tricky part here. And if I play here, the best move here, believe it or not, is queen e3, walking into the line of the rook. But he really does not have any discoveries. If he checks here, we take, right? If he tries to go after this b2 pawn, then we play queen c1 and we get away with it, pushing b3 the next move, right? So all these, the queen e3 move was just really hard to spot for me. So instead, what I did was I played bishop e2. He played e4, good move by him, g5. So slowly you see he's expanding on this side, and I'm losing the game because I'm not fighting for space anywhere, right? I'm all cramped up here, and it's not very good. So I could start with like f3, right, to free the forces up. Knight f5, bishop h2, and if he plays here, then we play here with the threat of bishop d3, and if we even prepare this f3 a little bit, or this f4 maybe was also a good move to challenge this pawn or make him en passant. So here takes, bishop takes, right? And I'd have access on the target here, get my knight here, maybe pressure this pawn. So maybe those were good alternatives. So let's see. Instead, what happened was I played knight here, and that wasn't the greatest move. And then f5 happened, bishop h2, f4, knight c2, rook f8. You see he's all expanding on the side. Eventually he's going to bring knight in, queen in, maybe push this pawn eventually. So it's looking really grim for me. And I play this f3 a little too late. e3 happens now. And look at this really clumsy bishop, right? it looks terrible. I'd have to sacrifice my knight for the 2 pawns to get it out, so it's not looking so great here. Knight b4. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to relocate to d3 and to maybe c5, try to find some better home for this knight, right? So I do that. Knight f6, he's expanding on this side, and I have to try to create some play on the queen side. Knight d3, knight d7. Okay, he's a little protective here. Maybe I should have tried something like a4 here, right? Get some play. Takes, queen a1, knight out, knight c5. Maybe something like this with the threat of e6, with the threat of a4. Maybe this would have caused a little bit more chaos, but I don't think I was capable enough at the time to see such things. I was a very defensive player. So rook fe1, wanted to make sure this pawn went no further. He plays knight f5, good move. Knight b4 happens, trying to put pressure here. Knight b6, back to d3. So as you can tell in this game, I'm not really planning for everything. I'm just hoping for the draw here, right? So it's kind of hard to say where I'm going with this. Knight c5, knight b3, queen b1. I do get my bishop there. And this was a really bad trade because I'm trading down and it's really good for him because once these pair of knights are gone, this bishop will dominate this bishop because this bishop's blocked in by these pawn chains, right? So that's a really sad part. I had to bail out with like g3 and maybe try g3 or bishop f8. I could play like h4, right? Try something here. I'd have to sacrifice pawns, but I had to bail it out here. So maybe this was a better continuation, but I neglected it. Played knight c1, bishop f8, and it just wasn't really clicking. So knight d3, I'm back into the square, right? Bishop d6, rook e2, and you see he's making all these pushes, and maybe h4 wasn't the best. Maybe he had to play here and start pushing g4, right? And get some pressure after g4, maybe get f3 on the board. So let's look at this. King h1, knight f6, king g1, g4, right? Takes, 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 and this would be really good for him, right? Because he has f3 happening, so it's really bad for me. But he plays h4 instead, closing the position. I close it too, hoping for a draw, but then I wasn't really prepared for this b4. So takes, takes, he simplifies. Knight b4 was pretty much the closer. Just, I accepted the fact that he was going to have a good knight, a good rook, I have a passive rook, and a closed bishop, right? I must go sacrifice it in order to get a chance. Knight c4, rook e1, check. Attacking both pawns now, really good move. b5, there, check. King c3, another pawn whipped off. b4, rook b8. Now you might think, okay, why can't I play here and try to get this threat, right? But he just plays here, here, pawn up. You have no defense on this e1 square. Bishop g3 takes. So after d4, king c4, king g7, I saw that he was going to bring his king in and get his knight in, and this bishop was dead. So basically I'm playing down a piece and 2 pawns here. So I committed to resigning. So the main things in this game that I really faltered on was that I didn't really have a plan, right? I kind of lost it after he closed down everything here. And another one of the problems was this bishop on the side. So I was really defensive, and I wasn't really active. I didn't find any plans. So that ultimately led to why I lost. And hopefully, you don't play such passive games like this.